Okay, so when you think of true greatness, who pops into your head? For most of us, it's got to be names like Michael Jordan, right? Or Kobe Bryant. We see the talent, the championships, the sheer drive. But what if the real secret to their success wasn't just something they were born with? What if it was something else entirely?
So let's get right into it. According to George Mumford, and this is a guy who worked as a performance coach for both Jordan and Kobe, their edge wasn't just raw talent. He says what made them so exceptional is that they were unlocked. It's this idea of being deeply in touch with your most true self. But what does that actually mean? And more importantly, how do you get there?
Now, the first thing you've got to get is that this unlocked state, it's not some exclusive club for superstar athletes. Nope. This key to unlocking greatness is available to literally everyone, and the source material shows it popping up in some truly surprising, even shocking places.
And that's what's so wild about this, right? The sheer range of people. Mumford's work shows that this principle works just as well for a powerful CEO or an elite high school athlete as it does for, and get this, men serving consecutive life sentences in prison. The secret isn't about your circumstances, it's about what's inside you.
You know, to really get what it means to be unlocked, you kind of have to start with the opposite. You have to understand what it feels like to be completely locked. And honestly, there is no better example of that than the incredible story of George Mumford himself.
I mean, look at this transformation. It's night and day. Before he found these principles, Mumford was a functional heroin addict, living in what he calls a private hell. And then afterward, he becomes this performance whisperer for NBA legends, teaching mindfulness everywhere from, as he says, Yale to jail. The contrast is just staggering.
And for him, that addiction, that was the ultimate prison. That was being locked. It wasn't just about the substance, it was about being completely cut off from the people around him and, most importantly, from his own real self, from his own potential. It was a prison way worse than any physical one.
And this quote, this ancient saying, it basically became his lifeline, a life-or-death mantra. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. He realized, that he had to let that greatness out, or the very thing he was pushing down was going to literally kill him. That's some powerful motivation.
So the big question is, right, how did he do it? How did he pull himself out of that? Well, his own struggle forced him to discover a set of really powerful principles. We'll call them the keys to becoming unlocked. And these are the same keys he would later teach to the world's absolute best.
All right, so let's define this thing. What does it actually mean to be unlocked? It means tapping into this deeper intelligence that's beyond your normal, everyday thinking mind. It's about being so in touch with your most authentic self that your actions just flow naturally.
Okay, key number 1, mindfulness. And it's super practical. Here's how it works. Something happens, a stimulus, right? You miss a shot, you get a critical comment at work. Instead of instantly reacting, you use your breath to create a little bit of space, just a pause. And in that tiny little gap, that's where you find the power to choose how you respond. That's a game changer.
All right, the second key is a bit of a mind bender. It's called effortless effort. It's the Zen idea, and the best analogy is an archer who doesn't force the arrow. They just let the arrow shoot itself. This is what Mumford taught Kobe, how to score without trying to score. It's about getting your ego out of the way and just trusting your training.
So what does that even feel like, being in that state? Well, the legendary Bill Russell described it perfectly. He said it was like the game was happening in slow motion, that he could sense what was going to happen next. That's it. That's the ultimate flow state. That's being unlocked.
And the last key, this one might be the most important of all. It's the key of service. And the idea is this: in order to keep what you've learned, you actually have to give it away. Mumford discovered this in his own recovery. His own growth was tied directly to his ability to help other people. It turns out we really master ourselves by serving others.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got the keys, mindfulness, this idea of effortless effort, and service. But these are just ideas, right? Let's see how they actually look in the real world when they're put into practice by some of the greatest performers on Earth.
First off, Mumford draws a really important line in the sand. He's not interested in peak performance. Think of that like climbing a mountain. You get to the top, and then the only way to go is down. Instead, he teaches something called pure performance, and that's totally different. It's a continuous, sustainable journey of growth. It's about expressing yourself authentically, not just hitting a target.
Remember that whole scoring without trying thing? Well, listen to this.
Kobe himself once described a game where he dropped 16 points in a quarter and said it felt like he wasn't even trying, like it wasn't even him out there. That right there is pure performance in action.
And what about Michael Jordan? For him, it all came down to his legendary love of the game. And listen, that wasn't just a tagline for a commercial. It was the real deal. It was the engine that drove his pure performance. He wasn't just chasing rings. He was driven by this deep, authentic passion to just keep getting better.
And that brings us full circle, back to that incredible example of the inmates. For them, being unlocked meant something profound. It meant finding true freedom while being physically behind bars for life. It's maybe the ultimate proof that liberation isn't about what's going on around you. It's an inside job. It always has been.
So look, this whole thing, it's not just a cool story about famous athletes or people in extreme situations. The whole point is to bring it back to us, to our own lives. It's about starting your own journey to becoming unlocked.
So here's your path. Here's the takeaway. First, just start by acknowledging where you feel locked in your own life. Then, practice creating that little space between what happens and how you respond. Aim for that continuous growth, that pure performance, not just trying to hit a few peaks. And finally, figure out what your unique gift is, and then learn how to give it away.
So let's end where we almost began, with that incredibly powerful quote that changed George Mumford's life. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And really, that's a question for every single one of us. Because the stuff that's deep inside you, it doesn't just go away if you ignore it. It demands to be seen. So the question is, what is within you, waiting to be brought forth?